Sitaram, Shubh Swagatam, and welcome to each and every one of you to another episode of the Hindu Perspective on IETV. This is a special program sanctioned by the Board of Swaha, and I am Panditeshwar Madhu Maharaj, as you know, the Secretary of the Dharmandal of Swaha. And today we have a very special program. We have five wonderful ladies, five special guests with us today on this day of International Women's Day. Today, of course, we'll be hearing a little bit about the contribution of women and the inroads that women have made here in Trinidad and Tobago and internationally. And we'll also be looking at the theme of the United Nations for this Women's Day, Gender Equality Today for Sustainable Tomorrow. As we begin, I ask everyone to join with me in prayer. We can close our eyes, bow our heads as we focus upon that divine Lord, Gajanan Swami, and Om Ganganapati Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Ganganapati Namaha. Bole Shri Gajanan Swami Ki Jai, Swaha Mata Ki Jai. So at this time, I wish to hand over to Pandit Jaidat Maharaj, who will do the first set of introductions. As I said, we have five special guests today. You recall Pandit Gyandev ji, who unfortunately is not with us today. He would have indicated last week that he would like to have women on the program. So rather than you just seeing three pundits talking about women, it's of course best to have the actual women here. So Pandit Jaidat will do the initial set of introductions. Panditji.
Thank you, Pandit Ishwar, and of course, welcome to our viewers on the Hindu Perspective once again. And today's program is a continuation of last week's program. Last week, we began the discussion on International Women's Day, which is celebrated today, March 8th, 2022. And as mentioned by Pandit Ishwar, the theme of International Women's Day is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And I'll discuss extensively last week that sustainability in terms of economic sustainability, climate sustainability, all of those things are important so that the quality of life for all persons, becomes something that is an area of focus. In addition to that, we also looked at the UN Declaration on the rights of all humans, and in particular, we look at Article 1, which says that all humans are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And that really formed the core of the discussion that we had last week. And one of the taglines for this year's International Women's Day is Break the Bias, so that we have five qualified and competent women amongst us who will share their perspective, their experiences, and their views. And I'll just take the opportunity to introduce some, and then I'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar to introduce the others, for they are our guests, and therefore we see it as our responsibility, having invited them on this program, to introduce them, after which we'll pass over to these very competent women to introduce themselves and to say something more that we may not know. And of course, over the course of the week, we have had different viewers sending questions to us, and we do have a set of questions that we like to ask these women and, of course, get their contribution. So I'll start by introducing the most senior amongst all of us, one of the elders of our organization, Srimati Merlin Singh, who is a member of Swaha Divya Ashram. She is someone who has served at different levels, different capacities within the organization. And of course, she will tell you a little bit about that. I want to introduce you to the chairperson of the Swaha Gyan Jyoti Mandali, Srimati Vitra Maharaj. She has served in that capacity as well as other functions. And of course, when she speaks, she'll tell you a little bit about her professional career. And we also have Srimati Karishma Dautal, who is also a member of Swaha and a member of the Swaha Gyan Jyoti Mandali. And she's someone well known in Trinidad and Tobago, not only because of who her grandfather is, who she'll tell you, but because of her own accomplishment and the name that she has made for herself and the contribution that she's making to culture. So that we have these three distinguished individuals And I'll pass over to Panadishwar to introduce our two special guests.
I thank you, Pandiji. So, to my left, as you can see, or perhaps on the right on the screen, as you are seeing, Mrs. Ambika Maharaj, who is the current vice principal of Swaha Hindu College. She is quite accomplished in her own right, having achieved a BSc, diploma in education, master's with distinction also, continuing to make a tremendous contribution in the field of education, also in terms of religion and culture. And you'll be hearing a little bit from her in a short while. And last but not least, we have Dr. Shobha Maharaj, who may be unknown to many of our viewers, or perhaps known. If any of you would have checked the United Nations site, we are talking about United Nations and their theme for this year, gender equality. She's actually featured on the UN site for this year. And just for information, as she may be new to many of you, especially in Swaha, she has a BSc honors, MPhil honors from UE, and a PhD or doctorate from Oxford University in the UK. And she's actively involved in climate change research, biodiversity, and inequality. Especially, there's an interesting one. We spoke about this last week, Panajai, that inequality currently being faced by scientists, female scientists, or the global south scientists, that's developing nations, especially people of color, in terms of climate research. So this would be an interesting one to hear her feedback on some of the changes affecting women. So these are our guests for today. We have Ms. Karishma Dautal, Mrs. Merlin Singh, Mrs. Vitra Maharaj, Mrs. Ambika Maharaj, and Dr. Shobha Maharaj. So at this time, I would like, Pandiji, if we go straight into hearing from these special people. Again, we go by seniority. So we start with Mrs. Singh. As we begin, what would you like to share with our viewers today?
Okay. Sitaram, and good evening to you and our listening audience. As a Hindu woman, I found that my first obligation was to my family and my dharma. But in so doing, I strongly believe that in service to man is service to God. So being from a poor Hindu background, a poor family, I decided that I had to do what's best for my family, my children, make sure they will get a good education, and make sure that we were, complete as a family. So after having my second son, I gave up my job and decided to be a stay-home mom and look after the family. Now, that wasn't a very easy decision, but I thought it's best. And in order to make ends meet, to do everything to complete the family, I did a few things, like making a kitchen garden. I would cut my husband and my children hair. I sew their clothes, to sustain a healthy, proper family life. But in order to do, we also, during this period, in looking after them, I also got involved in social and religious work. I am a founding member of the Divyashram. I joined from its inception, and we have built a 3-story building in Prisal as a Hindu center. I also served at the Kuva Home for the Aged for 25 years and more, during which period I was chairperson for 6 years, right? And all this, I also was appointed as Assistant Secretary of Swaha National Board and served on the National Executive of Swaha. While doing that, I also served as on the National Education Board. I served on the Vasik Utsav Board. I served on the National Social Service Board over the years while they were building the children home. So with all this being done, I still had to make sure that my children and my family was taken care of. So during this period, I had to educate my children from primary to tertiary. I always got involved in their schools, fundraising, school activities. So we had to do everything to ensure that they get a good education. Right? Now, during this period as well, I taught RI. I taught RI in Chaguanas Junior Secondary School. I also did it in Couva South Government Primary School, and I also taught RI in Presile High School. Right? So during all this, I had to perform all these duties and all these roles, but also I made sure that my children, as a Hindu woman, you also make sure that your family is taken care of first. So basically that's about me. And we'll talk about the little challenges and so forth we had in so doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Singh, for letting us know a little bit more about yourself. And as you can see, Viewers quite accomplished. And I've known her all my years in Swaha, also a wonderful individual. And, to our viewers now joining, I can't recall if I said it in the beginning, right, Panajaidat, but to everyone, I say Happy International Women's Day to all our female viewers. And I want to hand over now. I know we said we're going, I don't want to say seniority anymore, right? We have a number of wonderful individuals. We go straight to, I will ask Miss Ambika, who's right next to me. And then after that, we'll hear something from Miss Karishma Dautal.
Sitaram, everyone. My name is Ambika Maharaj. I quite enjoyed hearing a bit of Miss Singh, your life story, and it in reflecting and thinking about it, it really draws me back to the entire theme for this year, and looking at what women really have to go through also. The word that kept coming up every time when you spoke would have been service, and I realized that women are duty bound and service bound. So just a little bit about myself. I am the first of 6 children from Pandit Balram and Nalini Prasad. So you would realize from there, being the first from a large family, responsibilities would have kicked in very early. I got married at quite a young age, also at 18. But as I keep telling persons, age and maturity, there's a difference. So young age, but maturity may be a lot more advanced than what the age may actually say. Following that, I would have gone on to complete my studies, get to obtain my degree in biology. That's at the University of the West Indies. Immediately following that, I would have given birth to my first child, Amba Maharaj. And I can say that, as a Hindu woman, trying to navigate both worlds of motherhood and also your duties as a wife and studies, trying to advance yourself and so on. It can be challenging at times, but I believe strongly that if you stick to the teachings that you would have been brought up in Sanatan Dharma, then it basically gives you the recipe for success. Following that, I would have gone on to do my diploma in education and then finally master's in education. At that point in my career, I would have advanced from teacher 3 biology into head of the department at Swaha Hindu College, where I am now currently the vice principal of Swaha Hindu College. So this is a little bit about myself, and I will leave it up to the other wonderful young ladies to continue with their introductions. Sitaram, thank you.
Thank you, Ambika. And we pass over to Ms. Karishma Dautal.
Kizaram, and good afternoon to all of our viewing audience on IETV. My name is Karishma Dautal, and I am the granddaughter of the late Ustad Jamir Hussain. He was a very well-known classical singer here in Trinidad and the wider part of the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. I am a past student of St. Augustine Girls High School, where I studied sciences, as well as I went on to the university level to pursue my BSc in biology with a minor in biochemistry. I then took some time off to get some work experience, and then I am currently now pursuing my master's degree in food science and technology. I am also running a small business that I started on my own, and that's it. I must say I feel very accomplished, honored to be the youngest member of this panel today. And after hearing just two members speak, I feel so honored, and it's definitely a privilege and a pleasure to be here to speak with you all today.
Thank you, Karishma. Quite modest, but definitely she has had tremendous, accomplishments in her short time, right? And she has very far to go. We know that. I'd like to pass over now to Mrs. Vitra Maharaj, and then, of course, finally we'll have Dr. Shobha Maharaj. Ms. Vitra.
Salam everyone. My name, as Pandit mentioned, is Vitra Maharaj. In terms of, as Karishma mentioned, and everyone else mentioned, I'm wondering, okay, what am I doing here? I cannot compare to the experience, the wealth of knowledge and the depth that these others bring to this panel. So I'm honored and glad to be here. Just a little bit about myself. I have my degree. I did a BSc at University of the West Indies in psychology and a postgraduate diploma in education. I'm a teacher by profession. However, I started my career and work service as a social worker at the National Family Services Office of the Prime Minister before I started teaching. I'm also, and I believe in the capacity here, I'm here as the chairperson of the Swaha Gyanjyoti Mandali. So I am truly honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mrs. Maharaj, for those short words. But I know we'll be hearing from you a little while again. And once again, also, just as the others, quite accomplished. And at this time, I hand over to Dr. Shobha Maharaj, who will add to the little introduction I would have done. So,
Sorry, everyone. I'll start again. It's truly a pleasure to be part of this program today. And I have to say, after listening to what everyone else has said about themselves, there's really not much to say. I'm pretty much an open book. Most of my life has been focused around education. And that's because basically I grew up around two very strong female role models, my mother and also my grandmother. My father's mother. They just embodied sacrifice and this sort of need to basically give back, not just to their families, but to the greater society. And I remember distinctly my grandmother, when I was little, she would always tell me stories about her life when she was a little girl. And the thing that struck me the most was that, I guess, according to tradition at that time, she was married off when she was 10 years old in 1 week. And the biggest regret that she ever had about this was that she was not able to get an education. So she would always tell me, no matter what you do, make sure and get an education. This is your key to independence and to freedom. And that kind of stuck in my head, which is why I ended up, I suppose, with a doctorate in the end. So I've spent most of the last 15 years or so, involved in climate research, not just basically for Trinidad and Tobago, but basically looking at how climate is impacting small islands and also generally vulnerable regions across the world. And this is just my way of carrying forward the instructions I got from my grandmother and my mother, which is basically try to not just look out for your family, but look out for as big a circle as possible. So in my case, I'm hoping to help not just Trinidad or the region, but also, contribute to a bettering of quality of life across the world, especially in vulnerable regions. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell, basically.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Shobha Maharaj. And just for viewers, in case you don't know her, I want to mention she's coming to us from Germany, right? So she has tremendous experience, and we'd like to hear a little bit more from her and all our special guests in a little while. But at this time, we need to take a break. The IETV studio has given us the signal. So please remain with us for the next 45 minutes or so. Sitaram.
Every day, normal people like you and I have questions about the law and a desire to understand simply that which binds us, guides our conduct and our journey throughout our lives. From as simple as buying a soft drink, for you the consumer there are laws, and for the business person there are also company laws. Therefore, as aptly named, you are the law represents you. I am Umesh Prasad, criminal law defense attorney, and I invite you to tune in every week. The mission is simplifying the law, and the purpose is providing education on the relationship between you and the law and on your legal rights. An informed and empowered citizenry is key because you are the law.
Hi everyone, welcome to Prime Time with Surendra on IETV, where we bring to you interviews with some of the biggest music icons in our local entertainment industry on Fridays at 9 p.m. I am your host, Surendra Ramuta. Stay tuned and keep it locked on IETV, #1 station for news and entertainment.
Prime time with Surendra, prime time with Surendra, prime time with Surendra, prime time.
Have you heard of the Beautylicious Caravan? Come partner with us at IETV. We are looking for the professionals in TNT. Are you a makeup artist, hairstylist, nail tech, a barber, or a person who sells all the professional products? We are here to share your knowledge, your skills, and do demos with you. Come on, partner on with us at IETV. Contact me at 756-1764 or ani.ramsamuj@gmail.com. See you soon at your location.
Welcome back to the Hindu Perspective, beloved viewers. And we have heard from our distinguished panel, their accomplishments and the roles that they have played in their lives, and in some cases, what has been their inspiration and their motivation. Now, today we are focusing on International Women's Day. And as it is widely known that, based on our own readings, our information, those would be aware that whether it be males or females, that we all face certain challenges. One of the issues that was discussed on last week's program was the fact that by law, there is equality for all. But is that really the case in real life? Does it play out like that? And the enforcement of that, and some of the factors that would mitigate those whatever is stated in law, those were some of the discussions that we have. And we're hoping that this week, we're able to take those discussions a little further. And one of the best places to start would be some of the challenges. So we have heard about the roles that these women have played, these distinguished women. We have heard about their accomplishments, but we want to understand a little bit about what may be some of the challenges that they may have encountered in reaching where they are today. So I'll just throw this question to the panel. And again, these were just questions that came out from our viewers who have sent these messages over the week. And this is information or the insights that they would like to get from you. So to members of the panel, if you have one, you have all, can you tell us some of the challenges you would have faced in, accomplishing what you have accomplished as females?
Okay, I'll go. I will go because, right, I found that working with the Coover Home for the Aged, right, I have accomplished like renovating the home. And because as a woman, I wanted to make the living of the senior citizens better because the homes are dilapidated, they needed upgrading. And I did that. But after doing all that, and you make it a better life, I found that the men in the home they were not happy taking instructions from a woman. Even I worked for 25 years in the board. I was 6 years as chairperson. I renovated, I upgraded the home and everything for them. But somehow they make a woman feel of a lesser person, right? And even at home, if somebody comes to work or do anything for me, they would take instructions from Miss Arjun, but they will not take instructions from a woman. It's different. So these are some of the challenges I faced. Also, security. I was forced to give up some of my social service, like serving on the boards, because I have to drive to and from around West or whatever. And for security reasons, I find safety was a big issue for me, and I had to give up some of those duties. So these are my challenges I face, and I don't know what the others would have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Singh. And I know that the others who may be in the field, and Pandit Ishwar mentioned earlier that in the field of science, there's a great level of disparity. So maybe we can ask Ms. Shobha Maharaj if she'd like to share her challenges in this area and her insights.
Sure. This is, I mean, this topic, this gender inequity is such a pervading problem in my experience, and it's not just in Trinidad, it's not just in the Caribbean, it's a worldwide phenomenon. So for example, I have spent a lot of time working on international reports. So this is where you have scientists from all over the world basically coming together to work on whatever, a topic. And so you have like lots of men and women from all countries, developing countries, developed countries, rich countries, poor countries. And what I've noticed is as a female person of color from a developing country, you're at the bottom of the ladder. Whereas if you are a older white male from the global north or from a developed country, you're at the top of the ladder. And there has been, and it's not just, common to one report, I've seen this time and time again. Basically what happens is that, especially if you're a younger person rather than an older person, you tend to get your opinions, no matter how good they are questioned, or they're not taken as seriously until, I think a lot of women, I've noticed a lot of women from developing countries, poorer countries, who come from cultures like our own, we grew up learning to respect authority and to basically, not rock the boat too much, basically, and just basically say, okay, if you're in charge, then, I'll go with what you say. And this is not something that works for me anymore. So what I have been doing in the last couple of years is that I've been finding my voice, and I've been speaking out against this, or writing about it, or speaking out against it, because this is not something that should be tolerated, especially within a scientific platform, or any scientific platform, or any platform in any case, because we're all supposed to be equal. Our thoughts are equal, and so it's a matter of, if you believe that what you think and what you're doing is right, then this should be enough for you to be able to persevere and not let someone else tell you or question your ideals. If you can justify and defend what you're doing, then you should persist and not just say, take no for an answer, or it's not good enough, or maybe we should go with my opinion instead, being the other global North white male person, basically. So, I could say a lot more about this, but it would probably go well past the program. So I'll just leave it to someone else now. But that's pretty much it in essence.
All right, Shobha, thank you very much. And I think that's very insightful, number one, to share the experiences from that global perspective. But secondly, the way that you have dealt with it. And one of the outcomes of this program, or at least the desired outcome, is that whatever you share serves as an inspiration. And when I say you, I mean the panel, so that other young men can understand that when they are faced with these challenges, how do they go about doing that? And you were saying that in certain environments, as a young woman, a person of color, that this type of discrimination you face, and that the solution is just to have that bravery, that assurance in yourself, and of course to find your voice and to use that. So I think that that's wonderful, and thank you for sharing that very much. I want to ask Karishma also. Sorry. Yes,
Can I
Shubha?
just say one more thing? Just to not be misinterpreted. So I just wanted to add, if you have your opinion, you know it's right, you need to stand up for yourself, but do so in a calm, collected manner. Don't be angry, because it's so easy for people to basically, especially if you're a woman, just label you as an angry woman, basically. So whenever you defend yourself, it has to be in a calm, collected, yet clinical way. And that way, no one can counter you or argue with your point, basically. No one can really say, okay, she's just being emotional, because they always accuse us of being emotional or hormonal and, that kind of stuff. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, so the attitude and all of those things, and the manner in which you go about doing that becomes important also. So thanks for that, Shobha. And Karishma, I know that you have made it very far in an area that may have been male dominated. And what we have noticed also is that in the case where females are popular in the area of entertainment, sometimes it is done in a way where dignity is not maintained. So we call a lot of things culture, and in the name of religion and all of that, we see things that are being done that we as Hindus, and for those who may not realize that this is a Hindu perspective, and everyone here is a Hindu. And the reason for that is because we do adhere to certain values and principles. And Karishma, I mean, you have maintained yourself and your dignity in a way that is expected of you, that will bring, pride to your organization, your parents and others who admire you. And at the same time, you're still recognized for what you have done and you have accomplished. So I'm sure that within that, there would have been some challenges. And, we'd like you to share some of that with us.
Thank you, Pandit. For those of you that don't know, Pandit is actually my guru, so it means coming from him that I'm hearing these words from him. Yes, he is correct. I have experienced quite a bit of challenges in getting where I am. I failed to mention earlier that I am in the field of music. I was vocally trained from the age of 7 in Indian classical vocals, and I have been singing from the age of 7. I have managed to enter and place in the grand final various prestigious competitions, and I am now a member of the NCIC Youth Arm, and I'm working with them to get our culture out there, as Pandit Jaidat said. However, many challenges are faced, and as a young woman in the field, a major challenge I have faced is getting things done solely because you're a woman. It can prove challenging in that, yes, it is a male-dominated industry. Males tend to be at the top, and I can be penalized or victimized later on for saying this, but I was always taught by my mother, my grandmother. I come from from a family of very strong ladies. They have always taught me to speak for my rights, speak up for what I believe in. And when I started vocal training, my grandfather, who is the late Ustad Jamir Hussain, he was a little bit reserved about the idea that I would be getting involved in the music industry someday. And, the idea of culture has been skewed quite a bit, and he was worried that I would end up there someday. So my mother assured him, she said, I will bring up my child in a certain way. I will teach her morals and instill values in her so that she does not stray that way. And that was a promise that I kept, and I intend to keep for the rest of my life. For example, you can be how good at vocals, you can be an amazing singer, you can sing as sweet as honey, let's say. But if you don't dress a certain way, You don't interact with certain people. You don't let certain people speak to you in a certain way. You are not going to be the favorite. You are not going to be as popular. You are not going to get as much gigs as they say. I have learned to let this not get to me and continue standing up for what I believe in and maintaining self-respect. Self-respect is a big thing that was instilled in me from my parents, both my mother and father. They were always a team in managing the way they brought up their children. And that was one of the biggest challenges I faced, not being as popular because of the way I dress or the certain types of my certain song selections. You also face backlash from other women, as sad as it is, because they want to be better, they want to be more popular, as popularity seems to be the most important thing. And they are the ones that are willing to sacrifice, their body, their language, their behavior. And that's something that I see that is very sad in today's society. So as much as it has been a challenge for me, I consider myself having overcome it. And I suggest that other women, they maintain their self-respect and do so as well.
Thank you very much, Karishma. I think that's very noble. It is a challenge, and over the last week or so leading up to International Women's Day, I've been listening to radio, and sometimes I'm looking at different programs, etc. And you have heard these different issues, especially amongst maybe Bollywood stars, some that we admire so much, and what they were willing to do and the sacrifices and compromises they were willing to make only because they wanted popularity. But they say that, as an individual and as a woman, you have decided that you're willing to forego that level to maintain what you see as values that were passed on by your ancestors to you. That is indeed commendable. So we are very proud to hear that. And I hope that, that lesson would resonate with other women. So we have heard from 3 of our panelists, and then we have 2 who are teachers. And I don't know the context, so I could probably ask Vitra first and then Amika, if you can share some of the challenges that you face, as teachers in this profession. We know that there are a lot of male teachers, but maybe not so much, a lot of female teachers, but maybe not as much male principal. But at this time, what we'll do, we'll take our final break, and then we'll come back to Amika and Vitra, after which you'll have 1 or 2 other questions, and that'll take us to the end of the program. But so far, we have had an engrossing program and very wonderful information being shared, so that in a minute or 2, we'll see you again.
Welcome to Burning Issues on IETV. Burning Issues is a contemporary show that is going to be dealing with current affairs. While we talk about the pandemic, while we talk about the issues of health, crime, be it public utilities, be it taxation, be it the economy, how we diversify. It is now for us to talk about these issues, and this we will be talking with in the show for the next few weeks on IETV with Dr. Manjrika Bahal and I, Vishnu Raghunath. I will talk burning issues.
We all want to save money without compromising on the best quality insurance coverage. If you are renewing your motor or homeowner insurances soon, then call us at Ekta Consultants. With over 27 years in the insurance industry, we can offer you significant savings on your insurance premiums. As agent for Guardian Group, we assure you the best quality coverage at a very competitive price. Email us at ektagroupmail@gmail.com.
Welcome back, viewers, to the Hindu Perspective. And we have had these wonderful ladies who have been sharing their experiences on International Women's Day. And we're talking about the challenges. So we started our program by looking at the various accomplishments that they have achieved in this life professionally and otherwise thus far. And then we were asking about the challenges, and we have heard from 3 of the 5 panelists. And now we're going to ask 2 of our teachers, Ms. Amika Madhu Maharaj and then Ms. Vitra Maharaj to share some of their experiences, their challenges.
It's the term, everyone. Again, thanks for the Jairat. So in the field of education, just like Dr. Shobha would have alluded to, I can say as a teacher, there is still that bias where it comes to different disciplines. So for example, you will look at subjects like physical education, and you will tend to find more boys gravitating to that subject than girls. You will see things like information technology. Again, it may be more, boys may be more, seem to be more attracted to that subject than girls. Food and nutrition, you would have girls being attracted to that more than boys. So for me, being, like I say, in a school where you can actually break these barriers, I think is quite a rewarding job and also a goal set. You are right, Panajaidat, when you said that you have a lot of female teachers in the system. There are quite a few male teachers that are there. But I can say that women who are there in this system as teachers or whatever, they are, and they do have that responsibility to be positive role models. Like I said, when you ask the question of challenge, to me, the challenge in education is that there is still the stigma, there is still that barrier between subject disciplines and in terms of what girls would like to pursue, females, as opposed to what males would like to pursue. And I don't know if Vitra, if you also see this and experience this even in your school.
Itaram again. Actually, we do experience this bias as well. And just to add to what Amika was saying, response to authority, I think, is one of the challenges that we face at our school. As females, especially, the students respond differently to males as they would to females as authority figures. And of course, it depends on how you interact with them, how you relate to them, but they would take a more serious response to the male teachers as opposed to females. In addition to that, I think one of the challenges as well as the teachers, the conduct of the male students towards female teachers. Sometimes the language that they would use and the manner in which they would approach a teacher, speak about female teachers. It's of course it comes with the profession, but it's also part of where we, through I guess the hidden curriculum, try to socialize them into the right way. And in addition to that, being a female and a Hindu, it's even different. Sometimes they recognize you because you have on your sindoor and you have on your raksha. Because I teach at not a denominational school, so it's a little different for us. But the challenge, like I said there, the response to authority, but also the behavior of the male students, especially towards females. But at the same time, I can't say that our dharma has helped because the manner in which as Hindu females we are expected to conduct ourselves, students, they respond to that favorably because they recognize that, Miss, you're a Hindu, and Miss, but you don't do these things and you don't speak in a certain manner. And not that people of other religions would, but we stand out as the manner in which, as Karishma and some of them also said, the way a Hindu female, a married Hindu female especially, is expected to behave and conduct herself by not affiliating in certain ways with persons who are of, let's say, older, by treating those of their same age group as brothers, elders as fathers. Children recognize these things. So just to come back to the point, challenges would be the way in which the male students respond to us, but also how, in terms of the authority figures and how they conduct themselves.
Thank you. And we have heard of the challenges of, all of our panelists and the ways in which they have dealt with it. And as I mentioned in the beginning, one of the taglines for this year's International Women's Day is to break the bias. And we have heard about some of the biases, which when the challenges were spoken about, of course, inherent in that were these biases. And, for me, as I listened to these things, some of the things that stood out to me, and of course, would have added as an inspiration, would have been this idea of leadership, that every single one of you are in a position of leadership. And that in itself is something that is commendable. Many times, we have the leaders that are recognized because they have a national position, but there are many unsung heroes also. So we have heard about, Miss Arjun Singh, who has been involved in social service work for quite a number of years. We know Vitra has been, and she's the chairperson of the temple of which I'm the spiritual leader, right? The Swaha Gyan Jyoti Mandali. And in our temple, maybe we had one male chairperson, the rest have always been females. And the females are the ones who are responsible for that leadership position. But yet we notice that at the end of the day, when you think about a Hindu and when you think about a temple or running an organization, there's still what you call a boys' club. So there's still that level of bias, that status quo that is still maintained, whether it's deliberate, whether it's inadvertently. That is just the reality we face. And we want to come to the panelists to get your views on that. But we are seeing that women do hold tremendous leadership positions. And in addition to that, one thing that came out clear from all of that is that there's still this innate pastoral quality that are demonstrated by the women, care for family and all of that, not that male and not pastoral. We have all experienced that. But, that is one area that always comes out. We have heard from the women also, and we have also heard about entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship has traditionally been associated with males, the idea of running a business and being, a male-dominated area, that you have to be a shark in the water in order to be a good business person. And, we have our females who are and that same innate quality that in the past may have been seen as a weakness, which is that pastoral care, that softness, has indeed served as a motivator and really a benefit to organizations and all of that. So that we have looked at the challenges and we have looked at some of the biases and breaking those biases. So that we just want to ask our final question before we start wrapping up our program for today. And really this has to do with the views on equality towards women. And I know that within the discussion, some of this may have come up already, but I'll just ask one of the panelists, and again, there's no right and wrong answer to this. It is just your view. And over the weeks, we have been quoting from the UN Declaration for Human Rights, and in particular Article 1, that all humans are created free and equal in dignity and rights. And we say those things. And even in terms of Trinidad and Tobago, we may say that they are rights for all persons, but is it that there's that level of enforcement? While it may be by law, is it that we are experiencing that and we are living that? So I'll just call one or two persons, and maybe Shoba, you having this international experience, if you can give us briefly, what is your view on that? How do you see the views on equality towards women in light of what is declared by these international standards?
I think there's a big disparity in terms of what has been declared and what actually exists in reality. And I think on a global level, women, even in developed countries, they are still struggling to find equality in terms of pay, in terms of respect, in terms of it's across a wide range of spectrum. We're talking about something between like salary or even respect in a conversation. If you're having a meeting, it's very, very common to have a woman saying something and then a man just intercedes and starts speaking over her and continues to do so. These small, subtle things, they happen in developed countries as well. But I think based on the conversations I've had with colleagues who are from developing countries, the situation is a bit more intense in the sense that apart from, including what's happening in the developed countries with women, you have more of, amongst colleagues, some women are still expected to be, to have some sort of like a subservient role where, you're having a meeting amongst colleagues, and then one of the men will say, turn to a woman and say, could you go get us some tea, or could you go get us some coffee, even though she is, she has the same position as he does, but she, as a woman, has to do this. This is something that I've heard a lot of female colleagues from developing countries talk about. So what has been written on these international websites about, the equality of gender equality, it's still a work in progress, and we still have a lot to do, basically, and a lot to achieve. And it really begins, it's not just about, men have to do their part, but women, we have to do our parts too. We need to learn to stand up in grace and poise and speak out for what we want and what we believe, and not let ourselves be pushed around too much, especially when it's not warranted. It's a two-way street. We can't just expect the men to change alone. We need to do our parts as well. And that's what I think, basically.
Okay, so thank you very much. And yes, we do observe that sometimes you go in a meeting and the expectation is that the female has to be the secretary and has to take the notes if you have a group of men. Now, we are running out of time. We have 8 minutes remaining. And Shobhat, I think that in your answer, you have answered the last part also, which is to give advice on, the female community, which is a speak up. And as you said, that is speaking up. Of course, you do it in a way that is respectable to yourself and others also. So we just like to end by just giving every person of the panel just a few moments to share your advice. What advice would you share with with the female community or women in your community as we conclude, and then we pass over to Pandit Ishwar, and I'll start with Auntie Merlin. Unmute the mic.
Am I on there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My advice to young women is firstly to respect themselves. Like I heard the ladies on the panel spoken, and they all looked to respect themselves. And also stand up for what they believe once they know they're doing what's right. Let your work be accomplished by success and fulfill your dream. And also be contented, because envy is our worst enemy. So if ever, I would like to see women, don't envy anybody. Work hard for what you want and accomplish for what you want.
Thank you very much. Karishma, any words of advice you'd like to leave?
I'd actually like to agree very strongly with Auntie Merlin. I'm not as experienced as her. I still have very far to go, but I maintain my point of self-respect being one of the most important things. And as long as you believe you are doing what is right, as long as you know that this is something that is not harming anyone else and it's beneficial to you, continue doing what you love and work for what you want. You have to work for what you want. You will not know the rewards unless you work for it. And I think you owe it to yourself to be the best version of you.
Thank you very much, Karishma. Bitra?
My advice to the young ladies out there as well, because Auntie Merlin has said pretty much all that we all need to hear, but it's to look for advice, look for courage, look for consolation in our scriptures. It's something that I always do. The answers are there in our scriptures. For example, Krishna would have said, if the women in our society become corrupted, then our way of life is lost. So it is up to us as females to ensure that there is continuity with our dharma, with our religion. And we look to our scriptures to do that. And on the theme, continuity and sustainability, in order for this to be done, we turn to our scriptures for support.
Thank you, Vitra. And Ambika, you can share words, your final closing comments.
No problem. To women out there, what I would say to you is that uncover your strength, your true strength. I think quite a lot of times we see ourselves not fully as we can be, to develop ourselves. There's a certain amount of hidden strength in each one of us, and when we are put in the most challenging situations, I think that is where our strength emerges. I will also say to all women, just like it would have been echoed from others, support each other. Let's not pull each other down. That's not what we need right now. It is challenging for us already out there. We don't need other women pulling us down. And finally, use your mother as your role model. Use your scriptures as your guide. And whatever your life experiences are, teach it to your daughters, teach it to your sisters and your nieces and so on, and teach it to those under your care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I pass over to Pandidishwar, just to let you know that, as the program has been progressing, we have been getting numerous messages. I know we didn't reach out for any questions because we didn't have any time for that, but just to let you know that you five, you all have been very dignified in your approach. What you shared, just based on the feedback, has been very, very inspirational to our viewers. And, from my side, I say, special thanks and appreciation for coming on and sharing your experiences like this. It has been very impactful from all indications here. And Panditishwar, I'll pass over to you to close off our program.
Thank you, Pandit. Thank you, Pandit Jaidat. So we have had a wonderful 55 minutes to 1 hour listening to the life story and to the advice that these women have given. And I do hope that, the young ladies looking on, the girls especially looking on, would feel motivated, some and would have, gotten some encouragement from these special people we had today. We talk about strong women, powerful women, and I recall a quote from the lady they call the Iron Lady, right? Margaret Thatcher, very famous individual. She said, if you want something said, ask a man. But if you want something done, ask a woman. And I'm listening to these individuals here, and I know they are all doers. They have done it. And to the young girls looking on, to the young women, older women also, believe in yourself, trust in your abilities, and take the advice that you have gotten from Dr. Shobha Maharaj, Mrs. Merlin Singh, Ms. Karishma Dautal, Mrs. Ambika Maharaj, Mrs. Vitra Maharaj. Put it into practice, and I know you all will be successful. Special thanks, Dhanyavad, to all these wonderful women on behalf of all the pundits of the Dharmandal of Swaha. And to all of you, our viewers, once again, I say thank you for joining with us and happy International Women's Day. Sitaram.
Sitaram.